Tasha for short. She's the former master's student of ASP and associate lecturer at ASP as well. She co-founded Douglas Pilipinas with her friends from ASP and is currently Nayong Pilipino's Foundation's program head for the Cultural Leadership Institute. And she's currently trying to finish her PhD in archaeological heritage at the University of Tübingen, Germany. So yeah, especially the topic today, sort of relates to her work in her PhD. So without further ado, Tash. Yes.
Hello. Thank you. Thanks, JJ, for that intro. At salamat, Binalot. Matagal na akong hindi nagsasalita dito. Yan. Okay, so baka sa mga bago, I didn't realize that my camera will look so grainy. Oh, anyway. So, ayun, it's good to be back. Hello sa lahat. So, nandito ako para ikwento sa inyo yung ginagawa namin for Nayong Pilipino. And how this relates, I guess, to my thesis. Ano na nga yung pamagat ng, can you show my poster? There you go. Yan. So, ginagawa namin, no? Cultural education through heritage interpretation, creative pedagogy, and collaborative teaching under the Nayong Filipino Foundation's Cultural Leadership Institute. So, ayan. Okay, thanks, Anna. So, kasi, ikukwento ko lang, no? So, nagsimula kasi siya na yung thesis ko sa PhD ko. Gusto ko kasi parang, okay, so, paano ko ma-apply or paano ko lalong gamitin yung mga activities na ginagawa namin sa tuklas, no? Para makapag-research ako about it. Like, in other words, I was already doing something that I really loved. So that's archaeology and education. So through to class, maganda na siyang outlet for me na parang paano ko ba ipapamalas, no, sa non-academics ang kahalagahan ng pag-aaral ng nakaraan. Or like, or in English, I don't know, maybe we have international attendees, but yeah, like how do I show the public or make the public understand the importance of studying the past? So one of the classes goals is always, of course, it has to be fun, no? And we all agree in the organization that just because something is fun, it doesn't mean wala kang matututunan or playtime lang siya, no? So yan yung isa sa mga paniniwala namin sa tuklas. And dahil I already spend a lot of effort and time, no, handling tuklas, naisip ko, sige, so might as well, ito na yung life's research ko. Like if it's anything I learned from Victor Paz, hi Sir Vic, is your research is essentially your life's work or your life's goal, diba? So it has to be something that you're committed to working on even in hard times. So naisip ko, ito na talaga yun. Luckily, I met Attorney Kay Malilong through Baby Kate, through Attorney Baby Kate Tantuico. So, pinakilala niya kami, and at that time, Attorney Kay was looking for people to bring in Nayong Pilipino to work on programs, no? She really had this great vision of making Nayong Pilipino more than just a park. I know that there was already a Nayong Pilipino speaker the week before that, right? But let me just kind of remind everyone, I know I was part of the generation who went through every year school field trips. Sa Nayong Pilipino kami nag-e-end, no? At paborito ko yung Chocolate Hills part. So, from grade 2 to grade 5, na-experience ko yung park ng Nayong Pilipino. And then after that, nothing. Like, wala na akong alam about it, no? And then in 2016, I think with the help of Don Satumbaga, kinonect niya yung tuklas with some of the program heads in Nayong Pilipino, Clark at that time, nilipat pala siya from Parañaque, nilipat pala siya to Clark for a time, and then we gave a workshop to the staff there about archaeology, how to do sandbox archaeology, kasi gusto nilang i-enrich yung mga tours nila, no, and activities na Nayong Pilipino. And then yun, in early 2020, before the pandemic, yun, we met Attorney Kay, and she essentially asked for a proposal from me, Kate Lim, and Baby Kate at that time. And it kind of became like para siyang yung mga proposal namin. Essentially, mga thesis namin siya. I mean, parang yun yung mga talagang paano ba? Like, talagang lifelong dream na, okay, sana ma-institutionalize yung ganitong klaseng programs, ganyan. And since there's someone who believes in you, thank you, Attorney Kay, nangyari siya, no? So, napasok kami sa Nayong Pilipino sa kasagsagan ng ECQ or nung pandemic. Nabuo namin yung Cultural Leadership Institute. Teka, ito siya. Okay, so Cultural Leadership Institute, which is, nung una, kaming dalawa ni Kate Lim yung nag-head niyan. Pero by January 2021, iniwan na ako ni Kate Lim, naging research institute na siya. Okay, so siya naman yung namahala sa research na ideally in the long run, the Cultural Leadership Institute will use, no, the data that they research, magagamit namin when we come up with our programs. So, ano ba ang CLI or ano ba ang Cultural Leadership Institute? So, siya yung training and formation program for developing cultural leaders who shall be at the forefront of Philippine cultural and natural heritage protection, promotion, and development. So, communicate together, we came up with what we call Makanayon, which is a cultural formation course for LG tourism officers, tour guides, educators, and other cultural heritage workers. So, binuo namin yung Makanayon para para magkaroon ng capacity building of employees of the government and other stakeholders in the cultural and creative industries to prepare them for leadership roles in natural and cultural heritage protection and sustainable development. So yun, binuo namin yung Makanayon. Ano ba yung Makanayon? So together, sabi namin, ano ba gusto natin, no? From a rights-based approach to a development approach. So this course seeks to strengthen the knowledge, skills, and attitudes of duty bearers to fulfill their mandate in empowering communities through the value and practical applications of shared heritage. So naghahanap kami ng mga cultural workers sa Pilipinas or any duty bearers, no, of heritage na sa tingin namin mas ma-enrich or mas ma-hone yung knowledge, skills, and attitudes nila, you know, when it comes to taking care of natural and cultural heritage. Isang pagtanto rin namin kasi is hindi ganun ka-popular yung cultural sensitivity. I mean, if you're not exposed to anthropologists and say other cultures, parang hindi yan part, no, ng vocabulary mo. And then, so yun yung naisip namin ni Kate. Sige, so paano tayo makakabuo ng duty bearers ng culture na tunay na makanayon or tunay na kumikilos para sa ikabubuti ng nayon? And when I say nayon, but Philippines, not just Nayong Pilipino. So yun yung naisip namin. So nag-isip kami ng values or core attitudes na gusto nating meron ng mga cultural workers sa Pilipinas. Bukod doon, no, yun. So like I said no kanina, it's a direct translation. And talagang the name of the course is also the vision of the project, which is to create cultural workers that think, act, and live in favor of their community and country. So through the lessons and activities, the aim is to build a community of cultural workers and leaders that will have the ability to act in favor of the Nayon. Maging makanayon sila. No? At paano yon? Paano magiging makanayon? So gumawa kami, nung 2020, gumawa kami ng 4 na modules. So nung una, yan ang makatao, makakalikasan, makabayan, at makadiwa. This year, we came up with the course Mapanagutan. Okay, so ano-ano siya? So, makatao, dyan papasok yung cultural sensitivity module. So, we have in the team, Miss Mix Padilla and other Anthro Watch members who helped us create the module and teach the module. Ano ba ang makatao, no? Ang makatao ay ang pagkilala at pagrerespeto sa dignidad at kultura ng kapwa-tao. So yeah, simple. Respect for each other and other culture. So next is we got environmentalists to help us with makakalikasan. Ay ang pagkilala at pagrespeto sa iba't ibang kultura na humuhubog sa ating kalikasan. Meaning, it is also heavy on, 1, the 7 environmental principles, and 2, indigenous people's knowledge in caring for the environment and their surroundings. And then we have Makabayan. Kung kilala ninyo si Patrick Mansueto, so sinama namin siya dito. Siya ang bumuo ng module ng Makabayan. At ang pagiging makabayan ay ang paggamit ng aral ng kasaysayan upang mapagyaman ang kultura ng bayan. So, kay Patrick namin natutunan yung historical thinking skills. Like if you think that critical thinking is enough of a skill, ang tinuro sa amin ni Patrick ay yung historical thinking skills. So, paano mo mapagagamit ang aral ng kasaysayan, no, para sa ikabubuti ng kultura ng bayan. So, yun yung tinuro. So, how to use stories and lessons of the past, no, and how to create narratives and use those narratives, no, for a better community or better country. And then we have mapanagutan. So mapanagutan means accountability, di ba? So ang mapanagutan ay ang pagtanggap ng relasyon ng turismo sa kultura, lipunan, ekonomiya at kapaligiran at kung paano ito isakatuparan sa ating trabaho at buhay. So si mapanagutan or accountability module is actually about how tourism has positive and negative effects to our society. So we got a sustainable tourism practitioner to come up with this module and teach it. And lastly, the synthesizing module is Makadiwa. Ang Makadiwa ay ang kakayahang maisalin ang mga mithiin ng sektor ng kultura tungo sa wasto at epektibong pagkilos para sa nayon. So it's the synthesis, siya yung nagbibigay diwa. It synthesizes the entire course, no? And kind of reminds you, this is what a cultural leader is. Someone who respects others, their human rights and dignities, their culture, someone who cares for the environment, someone who works towards a better bayan or community, someone who has accountability, no, and someone who has the ability to synthesize all of this and practice this in their work, no, as cultural workers. Grabe, no, big words. So pakilala ko na lang din yung team namin. As I mentioned, no, we have Miss Mix of Anthro Watch. Yan, sobrang Miss Mix became the guiding parang guiding lighthouse to all of us. Since she acted as the wisdom of the team. Nakakatuwa ko, she always brings us back, no, to the goals and kung okay, let's be sensitive to this part. Only we have to understand that people might not get this part, ganyan. So, yan si Miss Mix. Patrick helped in Makabayan and Makadiwa, as well as Vic Estrella wrote the Makadiwa module, but it was Patrick who taught it. And then there's me. And then Equa, who's also Anthro Watch. And yun, may iba rin tayong mga Anthro Watch. Julian from Davao. nag-anthropology din siya sa UP Mindanao. Elaine, she worked in El Nido Resorts and is now really a staunch supporter of sustainable tourism. Aaron from the Department of History of UP Diliman. Candy Bernardo, who is an administrator in progressive schools. Tanya Conlu, who is an environmental planner. And we have 4 members of PETA, Philippine Educational Theater Association. So guys, dyan papasok yung creative pedagogy na minention sa title, no? At lahat ito, ang laki ng team. Pero isa itong halimbawa nung sinabi ko rin sa title ng talk, which is collaborative teaching. Like Kate and I had this grand plan and this grand vision, no, of a culturally conscious Philippines. But even if we conceptualized the course together, we couldn't execute it just the two of us. So merong collaboration with these experts, no, at malaking bagay yun. And it really brought us all closer together. Okay. And then pinili namin yung creative pedagogy kasi kailangan din parang naisip namin. So very to class din yun, no, na gusto namin gumagamit ng lahat ng senses yung participants namin. No matter what your age is, you're gonna move, you're gonna draw, you're gonna sing, you're gonna dance. It doesn't matter how serious the topic is, but PETA made us understand the importance of creative pedagogy or creative teaching. Yan. So it was a 5-week course. So ang bawat module may sarili siyang week. And then syempre, we only met twice a week and then may asynchronous work sila. So it's as in full course talaga siya, no? And then after that, so this year in 2021, we came up with courses on heritage interpretation. So heritage interpretation simply is another way of communicating, no, heritage, like creating a deeper connection between participants and the heritage site or the heritage object, no. And what I devised here is something that Tuklas already does, no. Discovery learning and interpretation. Basically, it aims to train teachers of the basic or secondary education level to develop skills to interpret heritage data for students as an audience. So how do you make your classroom come alive using discovery learning and heritage interpretation? And how do we instill, no, the importance of studying the past and caring for our heritage? So we devised this. And then meron namang interpretive planning. So it's meant for tourism officers or planners, no, para mag-develop sila ng tourism plans with the heritage interpretation framework. And then meron din naman for tour guides para magkaroon ng interpretive guiding. So hindi lang yung okay, so this is the monument, tapos. So meron talagang creative interpretation kung paano mo i-explain yung monument or yung heritage site. And then, yeah. So we did it asynchronously and yay for that. Wait, meron tayong isa pang meron pa akong isa pang gustong i-share sa inyo, which further explains, no, the courses that we have. Tada! Okay. So meron kaming testimonials. Actually, this is posted in our Nayong Pilipino's Facebook page. Yeah. So, etong part na to, yan, na-explain ko na sa inyo kung ano yung ibig sabihin ng makanayon. Tas ayan, yung English version is, it is as applied to the concepts of this year's makanayon. Kasi ang pinaka talagang naging main participants namin ay mga participants from the Department of Tourism. So talagang anchored siya on the tourism sector. Yan. And naisip namin, I mean, it's really nice. It was a really great experience to be able to engage, no, with this sector of the government Kasi alam ko na I really think that mostly social scientists, no, may negative connotation yung turismo. Pero hindi, kumbaga, we need to have them on our side. So, that's how we reel them in, no. And quite luckily, grabe, nakakatuwa talaga yung batch na yan ng mga tour guides tsaka tourism officers from all over the Philippines, as in from region 1 to 13. Yan. So ang saya. Ayan, so si Miss Mix. And then makakalikasan, yan si Julian. And Patrick. Elaine. So, yan no. Together actually yan, sila yung nag-ayos ng Makadiwa. Okay. So, pinakita ko lang naman yan, yung people sa team. So, ano siya? So, yun nga, it was this grand idea that Kate and I had, but I really think that it was possible. Like, we really believed it was possible. We just needed, the support for it. And I'm really thankful for Attorney Kay, Dr. Laya Boquiren Gonzalez, and the rest of Nayong Filipino who supported us from 2020 up to this point, no, to be able to implement this course, this cultural formation course, na when you think about it, parang medyo brainwashing lang naman siya, no? Let's just brainwash people to be culturally sensitive and caring for the environment and all of that. So, sa tingin ko lang, no, medyo naging wider yung from my thesis na sobrang specific nung una na ang target ko is communities that are nearby archaeological sites as kung paano sila ibigyan ng capacity building workshops para sila mismo yung maging tagapamahala, no, at tagapangalaga ng mga heritage sites nila or yung archaeological sites. So like super special mention to Dr. Lee Neri kasi nung 2019 pa lang pinayagan niya ako na yung field school site, lapitan ko yung LGU para maging part sila ng thesis ko. So hanggang ngayon may communication pa rin kami ng Alubihid, Misamis. And through the excavations I had with Dr. Grace Barreto Tesoro, San Juan, Batangas naman. So sila talaga yung target ko nung una para sa malawakang course, capacity building workshops, no? So parang ang inisip ko talaga, hindi mo mas maaabot mo yung pagbabago pag may maayos at proper na education. And I mean, the thing is, I finished as a history major. I took my master's in archaeology. Hindi rin talaga ako nag-focus on the education field or the education as a discipline. And kinulang ako ng konti sa pedagogy and andragogy side, and which natulungan talaga ako ng ibang educators. So thank you, Vic Estrella and Patrick Mansoheto, no? So sila yung nag-take over ng pedagogy side. Tapos yung creative pedagogy or creative teaching, tinake over naman ng Philippine Educational Theater Association. That, it really opened the minds of our participants na there's just hindi lang naman iisang paraan para magbigay ng tourism spiel. Hindi lang din iisang paraan para maging isang guro. There are many ways, no, to teach a very serious topic or a very sensitive topic, and creative pedagogy will lead us there, no, to a more enriching kind of teaching. So, ayun, yun lang naman ang gusto kong i-share, no, tungkol sa mga ginagawa namin sa Nayong Pilipino. How it started yun with a dream with a friend, and then thankfully there was a foundation that believed in the same dream. So thank you. If you have questions, go ahead.
All right. Thank you for sharing, Tash. That was very, very enlightening and super interesting. Yeah, I could definitely see the work that you do with the class sort of overlapping with this, and then even overlapping with your dissertation. It's super fascinating to sort of see those webs sort of entangle and then, sort of being expressed in all the work that you do, in fact, which is really, really cool. So yeah, as Tash said, we're going to be opening up this floor for questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to post it in the chat, PM me, Anna in the chat, or our other tech person as well, Ara1. Or if you'd like, you could use the raise hand function, turn on your camera, and actually ask the question yourself. So whatever you're most comfortable with, now's the time to ask any and all questions. As we sort of wait for questions to come in from the audience, I actually have a question for you.
Okay, go.
Yes. So from the start of this project, how have you seen your thesis come to be shaped from this, and also, I guess the other way around, how your thesis sort of shaped this project? And is there like a sort of coalescing of both these things, or are they sort of their separate entities in a sense?
There is a coalescing because yun nga, hindi siya parang unang-una, na-realize ko, kunyari, yung public archaeology na pinapractice ng karamihan natin dito sa Philippines, no? Or even Southeast Asia. Like public archaeology sometimes is limited to putting up a tarpaulin, explaining what is happening in the site, or yung nakakatawa yung rounds. Yun, I really love that, by the way, rounds during our excavations. I miss it. And then the local exhibit, giving the site reports to the mayor or the municipal office, to the barangay captain, or yung may-ari ng property. Yan, 'di ba? Pero ako kasi yung like years of it, and also studying the practices of yan sila VJP, sila Migs Canilao, Ma'am Grace, si Lee, yun, lahat ng site reports ng lahat ng Palawan excavations at lahat ng Katanawan excavations, lahat yan. So hinarap ko yung public archaeology paragraph. There's nothing wrong with it that it remains to be a paragraph in site reports. We practice public archaeology the way we know it. It's fine. Pero dumating lang ako sa point na this isn't the only way. If we really want to engage the community, and if they need to be more empowered than this, because they probably don't even read the site report. Or when they do, more often than not, like naalala ko sa Alubihid, Ma'am Tash, baka request nyo naman kila Sir Lee na gawa sila ng one-pager lang, o kaya nung parang summary, explanation para kay Mayor, ganyan. So maraming ganyan. And paano mo nga naman i-explain, no, ang mahabang excavation? And how do you come up with a one-pager? So, yun, naisip ko, mas mahabang relationship at mas mahabang series of education activities ang mangyayari para talagang ma-embrace, no? Or and the locals or the residents of these communities really start to embrace and own the data that we have collected. And talagang magkaroon sila ng deeper relationship with it. So ako, yun yung nakikita kong, that was always a burning question. Like, how do we truly enrich the learning of the local community? And how do we truly engage them? So yun, parang konting backtrack. When people take ownership with things, it's because talagang kilala nila, talagang alam nila, no, yung pinag-uusapan nila. So, paano nila gagawin yun? Kailangan silang ma-educate para talagang ma-empower sila. And it's such a cliche, but education, knowledge is power. So, we have to give them that power, no? And we have to give them that knowledge. So yun, dun siya that's where the Venn diagram is. No, that's where it is. Yun.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's definitely important, and I definitely resonate with those words where you have to sort of meet them on a level playing field. Not just in the in the archaeological site report, or sort of just walking them around the site. You really have to engage with them, and really meet them at what level they understand, from having no background experience in archaeology to someone who's trained in archaeology. It's always good to sort of prepare for any type of interaction with people from various backgrounds. And yeah, I think this is definitely a good project moving forward. So I think we have a couple questions here.
I
First,
think Cessna
yeah,
is raising
yeah,
her hand.
Cessna Anida. I think I'll call upon you if you want to.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. Sorry. Nag-ano na ako. Anyways, Miss Tash, thank you for this talk. I really appreciate it. And it has so much heart at the same time. It has so much brain behind it. So it's really nice to hear you talk about something you're so passionate about. By the way, I'm also a history major, so I relate on that one.
Yay.
I graduate. Yes. Though I'm minor in psychology from UP Baguio. So my question is related to how did you come up with that core values? Because it kind of sound like psikolohiyang Pilipino. It kind of resonated to me. I remember my classes there. And these concepts are familiar. It's very nakaangkla siya dun sa psyche or values of Filipinos in general. So um, I suppose you conceptualize this, and there are a lot of values we have as Filipinos, and to just choose like five for them must be two, four, five values must be hard. So I was quite curious, how did you come up or decided, okay, this is will be the core values list. So that's my question. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Cessna. You're not the first person who mentioned psikolohiyang Pilipino. I'm not sure if my boss is here, if Doc Laya is here. Siya yung unang sabi niya, it sounds very psikolohiyang Pilipino. Pero sabi namin ni Kate, talaga? Okay, so yan yung related, RRL namin. Gagamitin namin yan. Pero truth be told, yung pinanggalingan niya is really more on, ano siya, nasa practice siya ng archaeology namin ni Kate, at saka nasa experience namin in civil society organizations. So, as you know, Kate Lim is working on, ano na nga yung term? Pero she's working on sites that are vulnerable. Yun, vulnerable sites. They're vulnerable to the environment. So yan yung pinag-aaralan niya. And si Kate talaga yung heavy on the environment since then, like climate change. Yung masters niya, climate change nung Pleistocene ba? I forget. Pero yun siya, no. So si Kate yung nasa environmental side, tapos ako naman yung nasa history side. And yung background namin pareho, yung nagsabi na hindi kailangan may cultural sensitivity kasi yun yung kulang eh. Kulang talaga ng respeto sa isa't isa. Yung human race in a general scheme of things, as in human race in general, not just the Filipinos, but like I really think that if people were more respectful of each other, we really wouldn't be in this rut right now. And yes, we are in a rut. And and then yung mapanagutan, heavy on the current events siya. Parang gosh, our government just has no accountability. So this is something that we need to instill in people na, kailangan ng accountability para hindi ka toxic na tao. Tapos, yun, tapos yung makadiwa, naisip lang namin ni Kate, okay, so paano natin bibigyan ng diwa lahat ng to? Yan. So, yun, as in talaga, it really bore out of our background and our what we love to do and what we think was lacking talaga, no? in current Philippine society. And then when we proposed it, sinabi nga nung mga boss namin, parang this sounds very psikolohing Filipino. So sabi namin, yeah, sige, we'll use that in our chapter. We're coming up with a volume, by the way, which will be published soon. So we'll be sure to share that. If I'm not mistaken, magiging available siya sa Nayong Pilipino website. And yeah, you guys can get it there. I am currently nasa na ba? So when I came up with the final report in 2020, yun, naging important sa akin yung, so how do I make sense with all of this? And how do I kind of like legitimize, no, these modules? So Psikolohiyang Pilipino was one. Sinama ko na rin yung ibang mga, kay Joey Ayala, hinahanap ko kasi yung mismong, maganda siya guys gusto ko siyang i-share sa inyo. Okay, references, here we go. So yan, so for example, yung 7 environmental principles, sinama talaga namin yan sa review of related literature. And yes, may Philippine studies then. So we also cited Zeus for the Pantayong Pananaw. We have Tatel, no, and we have Reyes on Loob at Kapwa. Jeremiah Reyes on Loob at Kapwa. So may mga Filipino virtue ethics din na kasama. So yun yung I guess yung ginawang meaty yung modules namin. Yun. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you.
All right, thank you for the question. We have a couple questions here in chat that I think we'll start to answer. And this one is, I guess, a little bit more pertinent to considering the fact that we're all online right now. This comes from Julia Ocampo. And they ask, how was the experience of conducting creative pedagogy / capacity building through online means?
How was the experience? Ano siya? Mapipilitan ka maging open-minded. It was fun. Because, okay, let's do this. Let's play a game. Everybody have to participate ha, para masagot natin yung tanong ni Julia. Sige. Everyone here in Zoom, please turn on your cameras if you were able to eat lunch today. If you were able to eat lunch today, turn on your cameras. Cute Mia, hello. All right. Okay. Turn off your cameras again. Okay. Turn on your cameras if you liked your ulam. Did you like your lunch or did you like your food? Turn on your camera. If you liked your lunch today. Kawawa naman yung iba, hindi masarap yung food. Yan. Okay? So, that's an example of, my Ana. That's an example of something that wakes your participants up, no? And another is we ask them to spell their names using their siko. Yan. And then, sometimes it becomes deeper questions naman. Like, I mean, kung naniniwala kayong na nangyari ang martial law, for example, turn on your camera. So, ganyan, may mga ganon. Or kung naiintindihan ninyo ang ibig sabihin ng diktadurya. Because surprisingly, a lot of people don't understand the word dictator and what it pertains to be. So, yun. So, yan, yung mga things na ganyan. And then it leads us to the discussion, no? Other examples of creative ways is we can always ask our participants to come up with creative outputs. Nakakatuwa dyan, no? Kahit ito, yung University of Northern Philippines, naging participants namin. They became our participants, University of Northern Philippines. That's in Ilocos. Oh my God, a lot of people left the room when we started talking about martial law, guys. No joke. But as in they went to the waiting room. Oh my God. Anyway, well, because I was the host, I put them back in the main room. But anyway, we asked them to write poems. We asked them to come up with yung collage, and you can do that with even Microsoft Paint, diba? And then we taught them how to use Canva and to come up with their own poster, no, about certain topics. So it was fun with willing participants. That's how I will answer. How was the experience? It was fun with willing participants. So ito rin, no, yung natutunan ko, minsan pag matatanda na, meron talagang willing, ha, and I really enjoyed some of our older participants who said, I will use this in my college level classroom. So yan, so meron ganon. Pero meron din na masyado nung mataas yung tingin nila sa sarili nila, and sabi nila they will not ascribe to this kind of creativity. So yun, hindi sila nagpatuloy. We have dropouts. So yun, that was the experience. But generally, marami namang open-minded because wala kang choice eh. In this situation, everything is online. And it's so hard. It's so hard to be like, it's so hard to be a professor and teach, and you're just reading names, no, in your Zoom screen. Which, by the way, if your students cannot turn on their videos, just ask them to put a nice profile pic of themselves in their Zoom. Para naman you're looking at a smiling face, no, when you're talking. Yeah. So, ayan, kunyari si Francesca Luis, ganda. Yan. Si Ligaya Asuncion, Mia Yatko. So it's nice when so that's an example. Like just ask them to put a nice photo. And so there's really no other way to it, I really think. We need to adapt to the current times. And I think creative pedagogy online is actually the way to go. And sometimes just showing a PowerPoint isn't enough anymore. So we need games. Wala eh. Overly stimulated din yung generation ngayon eh. As in, there's so much stimuli for them, and sometimes you just have to keep like, okay, let's do this. Parang production number ng lahat eh. Pero okay lang. Like, as long as you're willing, you can make it happen. So yun, that's my answer to that experience.
Okay. I think Sir Vic has a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Sir Vic.
Hello, Tasha, and kudos to this initiative you have, and of course, this idea that you developed with Kate, Liam. It's always welcoming and heartening to see new initiatives because, as you mentioned, all initiatives, they don't cross, they don't negate others. They have to be seen as boats that are sailing in the same direction. Because even if we sum it all, it's not enough. As you will see, 3 decades of efforts, we sometimes ask if we have a dent. But I want first a technical question. So how many cycles have you done this 5-week course already? You've done it
4 times.
4 times.
Yeah, we have
And
4
then,
different.
do you already have a instrument to at least get? Doesn't have to be quantitative, like a qualitative assessment. You showed a slide of feedback, right? So is that like a feedback that at the end of each, or you get it indirectly, the feedback from them?
So what we do is before may quantitative then. So before the course, we have a training needs assessment Google form. So may mga tanong kami, what do you think of heritage? What is this? What's gonna? And then during the sessions, may mga sila sir, may mga panata. So yan their outputs become the qualitative data.
And in those in your application, implementation 5 times, are they all like government employees? Were they there because they have to be there, or is there a community, members of community in other words, have you applied it to in your original plan, right, of going to the basic community?
Yeah.
Which takes me to a sub question, like, do you plan to go back to San Juan, Batangas with this new format, no? And apply it now to that community now that they know you, but now you're then going to apply, but that's a commitment of 5 weeks, no? Twice a week, 5 weeks, no? So I can see why the DOT and government, because they need it for their metrics, no?
Yeah.
They need it for metrics. School, public school teachers and all that. That's all that, no? And there's nothing wrong with that. But it is a different community to basic communities, though. That's why it is all good, though, because it is a sharper and more creative and I believe, like you, more effective way of getting across the essence of what we want about heritage education. Now, a comment. The public archaeology concept is you were spot on. It is a limited concept. It is really more archaeologists out in the field trying to make sure that what our basic research, our excavations, are immediately meaningful or understood by the immediate community. If you're digging in the middle of nowhere without communities, you don't need a public archaeology concept. However, I think the larger concept is an archaeological heritage concept, where it subsumes public archaeology. Public archaeology is really, here's my site, this is our site, we're excavating it. There's a community next door, we're living in a community. They have to be the immediate people who will understand what we're doing, you know. But archaeological heritage is the larger construct, which is, I think, what you are hitting at, no? I believe it's good if you have enthusiastic and really passionate people like you. But no matter how good your format is, if the people implementing it don't have the fire in the eyes, no? It will just be like any other format, in my view.
I have an answer to that. So,
Yeah.
di ba you asked if, okay, sila ba'y nandyan dahil required? For example, the Department of Tourism's participants, they were selected, no, by the regional offices. Ang napansin namin ng team was these tourism officers and these tour guides, they're essentially people persons. So talagang, oh, I love this. I love learning. Ganyan, ganyan
That's good if
sila.
it's the case, yeah. Because and you know what? It's good when it's online that way. Then you get the real people who should go. If it's like a travel thing, usually the people who will go will be the supervisors, no? And
Yes.
you will not get the real people that should benefit from it.
So our second batch survey, hindi sila require, like, parang I just had this is a community that I had already known, my rapport built. No, we already did initial workshop with them, a 2-day workshop with them in Alubihid with the field schoolers in 2019. Nung makanayon na, excited din sila, as in they were there.
So good. So you actually now apply this in
yes. And now this answers your question.
Yeah, so that's good. And then you can compare your first attempt.
50% dropped out. So
because it's 5 weeks. Hard. It's a commitment.
Well, kasi public school teachers sila, that's why.
Commitment.
Well, kasagsagan din siya nung, kasi may mga hasaan and CDO participants din kami. Yung mga CDO participants namin, bigla silang ginamit ng LGU para ayuda disbursement. So, yun, like, ang ganda kasi dun din, yun nga, pumapasok yung other engagements nila or other obligations na, which is very real also. Because yun nga, like in the context of these basic communities din, pag pumunta ka rin naman doon, ayun, papasok din naman yung kumbaga yung current psikolohiya nila na parang hindi ko
maganda yun na you're focusing on on consciousness, kamalayan, no? In my book. It's I just want to underscore, and I'm sure you've thought about it. One thing, when you go through all of this and you think about the objective, what will sustain it, and this is easier said than done, but I see it now working. But wow, it really takes a long time. First, you have to have warm bodies who are interested, who are rooted to communities. No? But it doesn't matter, even it's their government officials, but warm bodies who are interested. And once you have that, the next step is that they understand what you mean by what's the term again you use, the makanayon, no? To really capture the essence of makanayon. No? And you know what, Kat, and you can further articulate this in your work because you have your regional insights on this with your experience, is see how, what is their reaction and sense to the concept of ownership. Because I think that is crux in the middle. And that is our dilemma as a discipline and a dilemma in terms of heritage. It's all very well to say collective ownership, but then we don't, but there's private ownership. And then there's community ownership, ownership between community and then the state, or the larger state, local government state. These are very important points of tension, and they're very subtle. And it is what I think discourages many, when, because without ownership, a sense of ownership, whether real or imagined, there's also no sense of belonging. And that sense of belonging is crucial step towards the really the opening of minds, and then they will be self-propelled. No? And you know the beauty of it, they will be self-propelled and they will be so innovative. The innovations are innovations that we never even thought about. So in my efforts, and I am not disheartened, but I just so I was so optimistic, too optimistic back way back. But now, after 20 years of practicing it, I think it's in the right direction, as long as there's a warm body.
Yes.
That's to say.
And
Second,
also
the
policy.
ownership is crucial, Kat. You know, who owns this? So the ownership concept, you look into that. Look into that, and integrate it in or underscore it in your concept of makanayon. It cannot be just collective, general. If it's collective, it has to be very defined. How it is collective, at what levels, and then you cannot disregard the concept of private or the sense of individual ownership, or and that is in the heart of our dilemma as archaeologists, really.
And actually, sir, well, baka gusto niya rin malaman. Place attachment.
What's
Oh my
that?
God. Place
Place attachment.
yeah.
Place making, yes.
Yeah.
That's very fashionable now. Place making. Yeah, that's good.
Yun.
Yeah, well, thank you and congratulations. I hope it carries on, and I hope you infect others, not with COVID, but with the the enthusiasm of presenting this module.
And I think Kate Lim has something to add.
Yeah. Oo nga, sir. Ako si Tasha, hindi ako si Kate. Kanina mo pa ako tinatawag na Kate.
Hello. Hi, sir. Actually, gusto lang ako i-follow dun sa tanong yung reflections ni Sir Vic. Kasi you were talking about parang in terms of archaeology, like how do we really do it in the community? And the concept of a property kasi of sense of ownership. Pero iniisip ko din siya lately, if do we really need to rely on ownership alone, or to have programs that can actually be more parang mas ilabas yung sense of belonging rather than the ownership. although the ownership will come in the first level. Kasi the way that we also recognize heritage in the heritage law is actually a concept of property. Cultural property siya eh. So nawa, ang isang cultural tradition, property siya. Pero parang iniisip ko nga, hindi kasi dapat din siguro ganun kung paano natin siya pinoprogram. And baka, and struggle yon and challenge also for those who are doing this na how do you really put it in another level na mas belongingness yung program natin rather than ownership na parang sa'yo to. Yung gets niyo yung ibig ko sabihin.
Yes, I totally
Parang,
agree. No, ang i-clarify ko lang, Kate, no, the ownership idea must be recognized and must not be put aside.
yeah.
Central in the issue of how people will react. For example, if you talk about basic communities, if your archaeological resource is in private property and the family who owns it is in a one faction of the community, you lose the other half. No, so the solution there is for local government. No? So ownership would be that's why if you fire and if the local government, barangay level, or even the town level are on board, then they will be the ones who, for example, purchase the land. Then it becomes public, but it is actually privately within the
Within their bounds. Yeah.
and then you skirt that issue, no? And then everyone then can claim ownership. So that was the biggest issue in Lipuan Point. With all good intentions, the state, during Marcos' time, declared Lipuan Point, where Tabang Caves and everything, as a reserve national. So for 40 years, right? For 40 years or so, 50, it was such. The local community, the town, no, Alfonso Trece, later on Quezon, Palawan, never saw it as theirs. So they didn't care. No? And in fact, they went beyond not caring. They were antagonistic. They were antagonistic to the reserve. And so they were doing everything to undermine it. This only came out later on, later on, but it was very clear that because they never had a sense that Lipuan Point was part of their heritage. So that was part of their community. So this disjointness, no, is very important to understand. So consciousness building will have to be in many levels. No? So for example, the module you created doesn't have to be basic community.
Yes.
For all you know, it really works well in level of government employees or really already there, or training potential heritage workers, no? who then will capture the essence and then replicate it, or create their own, no? Adopt it and then make their own. Oh, that would be the best. That would be the best affirmation that what you're doing is really hitting the mark. No? And I hope that will happen because tama yan, you're hitting the educators. That's one in the public school teacher, because then there's a multiplying effect. No? You manage just to inspire one out of 100. That's good enough. No? That is already a success for me. No? That's already success.
Can I follow up with my comment or question? I was just thinking, sir, if for you, Sir Vic, or for you also, Tasha, if you think there should be a difference also in the approach and how we do these kinds of work between sharing, for example, tangible resources and also intangible ones, following through that sense of ownership and belongingness. Kasi parang iniisip ko kung dapat ba iba rin yung approach kapag Kasi pag material based siya sa atin, clear siya na may ownership, may concrete example ng possible identities ganyan. Unlike for intangible heritage na it's quite complex to to wrap in somebody else's culture or a group. Like, for example, yung mga traditions na, halimbawa, pamamanhikan, hindi mo naman pwedeng sabihin isang tao lang yung may ownership dyan. So, iniisip ko siya in how we also program our, ganito, yung mga public archaeology or heritage projects. Kung iba dapat ba yung kamalayan at yung programa sa intangible as opposed to the materials, those who are dealing with material culture.
They're different. I really think they're different.
Yeah, me too.
Yung the entire issue about appropriateness, no? Proprietorship and the appropriation, no? So you have people who are in one extreme. No, they say, oh, you cannot appropriate certain designs of fabric or certain kinds of music because that is ours, right? The most extreme of that would be, let's say, champagne. And then the state came and supported them. So you cannot say champagne if it's not, it isn't
From Champagne.
champagne. Cornish pasty if it's not from Cornwall, no. So but then that's in one way it's ridiculous. But that is a trend that you can also see at other levels, no. There's a someone who's campaigning against people who are using Kalinga designs, no, for other things. But I think that's a very contentious point. But maybe we should not be sidetracked by it. These are issues that will be debates, no, and may in the periphery. But let's not lose focus of. And then that those debates are healthy, whatever happens, no, because then it airs the issue, right? But we have to go for the long, the long run. Just keep on telling people a certain kind of narrative, in the, in the words of Tasha, a certain kind of propaganda. No, that is productive, and positive for community. Because for example, I am a believer. You want to conserve your environment, right? You want to conserve your culture. You want to have a better well-being, which is a goal of everyone. A better well-being, ginawa. Then make sure that they have a sense of belonging. And that sense of belonging can be done, or it can be moved on, or improved with the work we do, with heritage, with linking people to. That's what Tasha was showing, place making, putting value to the place, linking individuals and communities to the place. Then they will protect it. As I was always say to the community, if you just concentrate on economics, if a person becomes rich, the moment they get rich, they will go to Manila or to the city, and then they just send a couple of support to their poorer relatives. But if a person has this sense of place, a sense of belonging, then when they get rich, they will not leave, or they will pour in more to the community, and then they will protect the environment, etc. We've seen this again and again in many ways, but in different paths, getting to that point. But I think that is important, to not forget why we are doing all of this. Now, of course, for us, at least for us who are archaeologists in this group, in this meeting, we are interested in many things. But I will declare that archaeology for me now in the 21st century Philippines cannot be outside heritage. Archaeological work by in essence is heritage. It's a controversial view. Not everyone will agree, but that's how I will define archaeology now. It doesn't take away that you can be a science-based archaeologist. You can interested in very specific issues, but at the end of the day, we are we are the larger room where we belong to. The language there, no, the dynamics there, is way smack in the middle of the stream of heritage. But that's just me. Yeah. And I'm glad, by the way, Tasha, that you recruited Vic and Rick. You know, the, they're a good team. Those two people.
Yeah, super.
Yeah.
All right. I think we have more questions in the chat, and I'll get to reading to those right now. And this question comes from Mark Louis Luge. They say, "Hi, thank you for sharing the Cultural Leadership Institute, its programs, and the values behind them. I was wondering uh, I was wondering if there was an explicit effort from the side of the organizers to evaluate the results or impact of the Nayong training CLI. If yes, how is it done? Slash, is it being done? If not yet, how do you think this can be done?"
So yung meron, as in this is the what we're doing now, we're giving it for free to partners that we already have interaction with. Kasi validation series talaga siya. So we're trying to validate the course that was created, no. So the way we're evaluating it is, of course, yan yung class outputs nila. And then evaluation, there's always an feedback form and evaluation form at the end of each module. And in fact, aware din naman sila na if kailangan pa ng further evaluation, yun, they're open to us just contacting them. So yun, may qualitative and quantitative, but we focus more on the qualitative side of evaluation kasi nga mas may laman siya eh. So ang other ways na ma-validate mo yun nga, like is it applied to their work? We ask them to come up with tourism plans, no? Or yung tour guides, pinagawa namin sila ng script na gumawa sila ng video nung bago nilang script and spiel, no, for their tours. Tapos for educators naman, gagawa sila ng lesson plans na pinapakita. So these are ways, no, how we can evaluate na the course. Yun. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think it does. So they said thank you in the chat. I think there is another question here. And this is from Jan Kaime. First of all, they say, hello, thank you for sharing this, and that you seem very passionate about this. And it really shows. They say that their background is in the natural science. They sort of ask, where do you see, where can you see this entering in the vision of the Leadership Institute?
So natural sciences at kung paano ito papasok sa vision ng Cultural Leadership Institute. Tama ba, Jan? And I think yung follow-up din niya privately is like, he's interested in the tangible aspect of heritage in terms of using science. Iniisip ko din in the long run to develop a program. Okay, so for conservation of science. Right now, to be completely honest, so yun, si Kate umalis na, no? Ako paalis na, no, sa CLI. May mga nangyari within the organization noon, and mukhang hindi na supported yung ganitong klaseng endeavor. And to quote, it's too esoteric. A lot of people, there are some people in the organization who think that heritage shouldn't be this esoteric. Okay, so I don't know, like, but of course, makikita mo yung natural sciences, I think sa makakalikasan na module. Very related siya dun, no? Pero ang gusto kong maintindihan is yung follow-up question mo dyan about the tangible aspect of heritage in terms of using science, no? Kung paano ba ginagamit ang science to conserve heritage, or I mean, is that what you mean? Yan. So, baka pwede mong...
Yeah, if you'd like to sort of expand on that in the chat, or if you want to speak, feel free to unmute yourself.
Yeah, or actually, I'll also leave my email address.
Mhm.
edu.ph.
Yeah,
so,
of course,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you can
Okay,
definitely.
so yeah. Meron akong insider information. Nag-call a friend ako. So, you are a chemist dyan. And you want to conserve heritage through chemistry. Ay, maraming applications yan. Nako, marami yan. Ayan na, nag-heart na si Kate. I will email you. Okay? You can count on that. Magbe-brainstorm na kami ni Kate dyan. Kate is my partner in a lot of research. Yan. So, sige. Ano yung ganun?
Hello? Pwede ko dagdagan lang yon.
Yes.
Siguro yung mga examples, kasi di ba si Sir John Jaime, I believe he's a chemist in Lasal, right?
Yes. He's doing his PhD.
Yeah, I think I've seen one of his publications also in mortar. Tama ba ako? Yun yung ginagawa niya. Ayun. So, for example,
Mortar.
oo, sa historical sites si Sir kung hindi na ako nagkakamali. Tama ba? Si Michelle nandito, so baka alam din niya. Yun natin nabasa ko eh. So halimbawa, so yung mga ganong klaseng types, talagang magagamit siya kasi yung mga past na ginagamit, yung mga ginagamit ng mga tao dati ay hindi rin naman ngayon ginagamit. So in terms of conservation, napaka-practical niya. Like how do we really preserve material culture in its finest kung hindi na natin pwedeng ma-source yung mga ganitong mga gamit ngayon. Ayun. So I think yun yung pinaka-basic ng material conservation, especially kung chemist kasi sila yung you have really the technical knowledge to do these things.
Yes.
And at least for archaeology, talagang kasi since we also deal with historical sites, very much welcome yung mga ganyan na how do we really do materials conservation, na something also that is lacking in how we also do our courses here in the Philippines compared to other areas in the world na meron talaga silang specific na material conservation na mga laboratories. Yun.
Yan. Actually, ano rin, sir, kasi parang, well, nakita ko na siya in historical preservation. So, for example, how to take care of archives, no, a document. So yeah, I really think na yung plan mo, yung future plans niyo, Sir Jan, yan, game yan. Kasi kailangan nga talaga ng technical training for it. Conservation in the service of, sasabi ni Sir Gerald Solano. In the service of science. Ang ganda! O nga, no? Yan. Sige. So, sir, sana nasagot namin yung tanong niyo. Tapos, don't worry, if you want to collaborate, I also left my email there. Yan.
All right. Yeah, I think for the sake of time, we'll be wrapping things up. But before we end officially, I think we have one more question here in the chat. And that is, from Princess Mai. And they're sort of asking if it would be possible to develop, the things that you've taught today into a more module-based learning system, sort of aimed towards, college students. So would you think that it'd be possible, or rather, I guess more, would you have an intention to do that, not just, to teach this to cultural bearers or, tourism officers or anything like that?
Yes, in fact, ako sa tingin ko, dapat mas maaga pa. Like, dapat mas pang early grades siya. Yung as in sa formative years ng students. As in yung dream ko talaga is gawin ko siya for 5 years. As in longitudinal na na research na gawin mo yung brainwashing as early as 8 years old. Tapos, alam mo yun, titignan mo yung result niya until the end of the So yeah, but yeah, it's possible for any age group. I really think.
All right. Yeah, like I definitely see that as a win-win-win for everyone. Because I might not have grown up here in the Philippines, but I know one of the very important facts in my early childhood was actually visiting an archaeological museum, year after year after year. So, sort of your experience of the Nayong Filipino, sort of field trips. Mine was to our local archaeological museum, and even though at certain points in time, I wasn't necessarily super interested. We went there year after year, but with time, that's a place that I really grew attached to, and sort of coalescing with a lot of the conversation that's been happening, in this meeting. Yeah, it's really important to sort of build that foundation early on. And even though not everyone will get attached to that and see it as something to pursue in the future, the ones that do end up getting attached to that become lifelong advocates for not just archaeology but heritage conservation, all these things. So yeah, I definitely think that that'd be a really cool thing to see for the future. So yeah, thank you, Tasha, and everyone else, for your questions, for your comments. Before we officially end today, I'll pass it off to my co-moderator, Anna, for some final announcements.
All right. Maraming salamat, Tash. Thank you so much for the very great talk. I think that was that really highlighted the programs of Nayong Filipino, but also I like that it doesn't just stay with just one organization, so you are expanding to other places. Okay, again, I want to invite everyone. I mentioned this in the beginning, but if just in case many of you did not see, there is a PSU, Palawan State University webinar in partnership with CAPI, and some of the professors and lecturers from ASP are going to join this. So please, you can check out the link. I think it's in the chat. You can check it out, and you can also attend it on this webinar through Facebook. I think you can still sign up for the Zoom webinar for tomorrow. This will be held tomorrow at 1 p.m. All right. And again, so thank you, everyone. For next week's BINALOT Talks, we will have Dr. Bomen Guillermo. We will have a pause from the Nayong Filipino team talks. Dr. Bomen Guillermo will give a talk, Mankunkuno ti Karadwa ti Makina, paggamit ng computer-aided na tool sa pagbabasa ng ambahan. So as you all remember, Dr. Bomen Guillermo is very enthusiastic in sharing his endeavors regarding using computer-aided technology in studying texts. All right, so we will listen to his talk next week, and then from the week after that, we will continue with the last Nayong Filipino sponsored talk, where we will talk about the other program, the last program that I think Tash and the previous speakers, Patricia and Hannah and Dr. Laya already mentioned, the Research Institute, and hopefully they will try to put together all of the programs of Nayong Filipino. And ang banggit nga ni Tasha, makita kung paano tayo pwede maging makanayon. All right? Sige, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Thank you. Thank you, Jayjay. Do you have any other announcements?
No, everything's good.
All right. Okay. Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for joining. And again, thank you, Tasha, Miss Andrea and Natasha Kintanar, and Kate Lim, who also helped with this talk. Thank you for giving the talk. Thank you to everyone who joined, and thank you for sharing your experiences. If you want to talk to Tasha again, she gave her email address, and we will see if this can be uploaded on our YouTube channel. All right. Thank you so much, and see you next week. I see you tomorrow on the webinar.